Bill. What will make you the best lieutenant governor South Carolina has ever seen?
I'll tell you, my heart is in the right place. I've been called by what I've seen. And what I've seen, quite frankly, is a lot of people who have not stood to the core conservative principles. I've never run for office, but I've been consistent in my beliefs. That's why I volunteered for Afghanistan. That's why I fought there. If you look through my life, I've really have walked the walk and not just talked the talk. And I believe in that freedom is the answer. Our government's grown too big. I will stand behind that. I will not waver. I have a lot of ideas, too, in moving the state forward as far as jobs go. One of the things that I talk about a lot is the fact that whenever we bring a retiree here, every retiree that comes from the outside on fixed income, on average, brings 3.5 jobs. This is a great state for retirees if we can market it right. It's got the beaches, it's got the weather, it's got the historic sites, it's got the social conservative values. So let's start bringing in retirees. They bring so much to the state, including jobs, and a wealth of knowledge. So that's I've got these ideas, I've got this background, and I don't believe any other candidate does. So I feel called to this, and that's why I'm running for lieutenant governor.
I'd like to know, what do you think about state sovereignty?
I am all behind the 10th Amendment. I am a strict constitutionalist, and the 10th Amendment clearly says that rights that were not specifically given to the federal government, specifically given. Now, here's what they've done. They've taken things like the Commerce Clause and stretched it beyond any kind of meaning that our founders intended. So for instance, if you, say, grow vegetables in your backyard, that in some way affects interstate commerce. We need to take it back to them and say, look, we're not just passing resolutions. 10th Amendment says that the rights not specifically given by the states are reserved to the states, and I am behind that 110%.
So you're willing to put teeth into that resolution?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, resolutions are great. They make a statement, but until you put teeth, which is legal teeth, and here's one thing, too, is I am a lawyer. And, of course, I get knocked for that sometimes, but I understand the Constitution. And I'm a strict constructionist into what our founders meant. It's not an elastic document. It's not, as Barack Obama said, a living document. It is a document that had meaning behind it. And I read the founders' intent, and we have taken the Constitution way beyond what they ever intended. I want to bring it back. And part of that's the 10th Amendment, and that's bringing states back to the sovereignty that they have under the Constitution.
What do you think about the federal mandate that they plan on bringing in for the mitigation plans for the counties? The different counties are planning on doing these things with FEMA, having forced vaccinating citizens, rounding people up. That plan just doesn't smell right to me.
It is absolutely amazing to see what's happened just in the last few months with this explosion of government. And it's everywhere. I'm going to give you a small anecdotal example, because this just generally goes in the same thing. Our city council had recently passed a law that in your own home, you can't put any kind of sign you want if it's considered political. Now, that means anything, really. It could be against the city council. The city council passed this. I've already taken it to the newspapers, and I've fought this one to say, look, what right does the government have to tell a private homeowner what things they can put in their own yard? But we're moving in that direction. It's one of the reasons I'm actually running for office, is you're just seeing this time after time of government believing they're God, of believing they give rights. And our founders were clear that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among those a life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That was the reason we fought the revolution. And I'm not advocating armed violence right now, but we need to take some unarmed violence, through the ballot box and start fighting back against big government. And these FEMA issues, I am very concerned. They've taken the economic crisis and used it, as actually Rahm Emanuel said, don't waste a good crisis. They're using these crises to grow government, to grow liberal social programs. So same thing with FEMA too, is they are using scare tactics to say we need to grow, we need to get bigger, and I am completely against that. I believe in as small a government as possible. So I know that's a long way of answering the question, but it's really one of the reasons I'm running, is the idea of government growing too big, spending too much, and taking away our freedoms.
Well, you said a key word. You said ballot box. I wish we could just do ballot boxes. Electronic voting is definitely not the way to go, as far as I'm concerned, unless there are checks and balances. If we're going to use an electronic machine, we need to have 2 copies of our vote.
Yes.
Come out, one for our possession and the other one to go in a box. The boxes should be sealed, they should be locked away,
yes,
and we should always know exactly where those boxes are, and there should be cameras on them 24/7. And the voting process should be open to public. Would you be, I'm part of the National Clean Elections lawsuit, so would you be, opposed to going to a system where it could be, counted by ballot as well, and if there were any indication that the electronic machine might be off, or the ESS machine didn't come up,
This whole thing to me is just a travesty, and here's why. Because we put our entire system is based on the perception that elections are fair. If that perception is gone, we have lost everything. There'll be anarchy. Because if people don't believe that the right person was elected, you will see, and this has happened actually in third world countries, so I am behind, in fact, I praise you for your efforts right now in bringing this suit, because we've got to do this. You have groups like Acorn, which there is enough evidence out there to say it is very possible that they're having people vote in multiple elections, using false names. Things like, for instance, not requiring identification. I mean, think about how crazy that is. That almost everything we have in our life requires some kind of identification. To be an American citizen, you have to have a social security number, you have to have driver's license. To actually make the argument that a voter shouldn't at least show some kind of ID to prove who he or she is just absolutely beyond the pale. So I agree with what you're doing, and I'm behind all efforts to try to clean this up, because this does touch at the heart of who we believe in democracy, and we believe that there's something special about the ballot box, and that in my case, whoever gets elected, I will stand behind that person. But I want to know it's fair, and that's exactly what you're doing. So thank you very much, Amanda.
Well, you're welcome very much. And I'm in it just like you are. I've got grandkids, and if it's not my fight, it becomes theirs.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, I've got 3 children, and actually I look at them, and when I look at all this stuff, like for instance, just the debt that we're developing, why aren't we thinking about the next generation? It's almost like it's all about now. Even with the stimulus plan coming to the state, I mean, the governor's plan is looking out 2 to 3 years in the future, saying, look, if we should take this money, put it in debt reduction. If we take it and expand our government and nothing funds it 2 years later, we're in a much worse situation. And yet all these people are saying, take it. Well, that's only thinking 1 year ahead, and that's what's gotten this mess in the first place, is people not thinking ahead, not thinking of the future, developing these deficits, these debts, till finally we're at the point where the Chinese aren't going to borrow anymore. We're going to be stuck in a situation that really our children will not be able to dig out of. So that's one of the reasons, too. I'm 41 years old, never run for office. It's why I've got the call, that things have gotten bad to the point that, look, God has given me experiences, skills, and leadership that I need to take these and bring them into the public office. One thing I will tell you, too, the military teaches you that the followers eat first. You take care of them first before you take care of yourself. I see too many politicians, not all of them, but too many. Their entire focus is what's the next office for them. They get elected to one office, and then immediately they're turning right back around, and what's the next office I can get elected to? And that's not me. I was called to this office. If this is all I do, that's great. I'll go back out and go back into the business world and take care of my wife and kids. If there's something else for me, that's fine too, but that's not my focus. My focus, if I get elected, is keeping my word.